Hi, my name's Andrew Haley. I'm a Chartered Financial Planner at Active Chartered Financial Planners, and today I'm going to be talking about pension simplification and the limits to tax relief. Pensions tax simplification was a policy announced in 2004 that took effect on the 6th of April 2006, which we now refer to as A-Day. The theory was to bring all of the various pension tax regimes under one simplified strategy. Now, there's some debate as to how effective that was in simplifying the pensions tax regime, but as of then, all pensions apply under the same tax rules. If we're wanting to benefit as much as we possibly can from this generous tax regime for pensions, there are three key limits that we'll want to take into account. The first is tax relief. So for personal contributions, we're going to want to make sure we have UK relevant earnings to cover it. For employers or limited companies, you can make employer contributions that may benefit from corporation tax relief on the way in as well. But there's a secondary limit to consider for money in, and this is the annual allowance. Now, each year we have £40,000 covering all of those contributions into pensions. But things like tapering of the annual allowance, the money purchase annual allowance, and how defined benefit schemes are treated for input could mean that you have less than £40,000 available to you. Now, there is also carry forward available, so there's plenty to consider with the annual allowance. But the third limit, and the big one to take into consideration as well, is the lifetime allowance. And this limit sits just over the £1 million mark, currently at £1,073,100. And if we breach this limit, there will be tax liabilities to consider. The first thing to say is if we do breach the lifetime allowance, it's not necessarily the worst thing. It's probably a good indication that we've saved and prepared well for retirement. But if we do breach this limit, there will be tax liabilities to consider. Now, it's going to be relatively easy to track if you have a single pension, but if you have multiple pensions, it'll be your responsibility to track the use over time to ensure you're paying the correct tax. And if we do breach that limit, broadly speaking, there will be 55% tax payable if we take that as a lump sum, or we can choose to have that as an income in the form of an annuity or drawdown, bearing in mind not only will the 25% charge for lifetime allowance breach apply, but we will also have income tax to pay at our marginal rate. As with most things these days, there's plenty of available information online, but you do want to be careful about the source of that information. And I believe what people really want to know is, how do the rules apply to me? What can I pay into my pension? What happens if I breach the annual allowance? Or do I have a lifetime allowance problem, and are there protections that I could be considering? For that, I strongly recommend that you speak with a financial advisor and that you consider Active Chartered Financial Planners.